Rap, 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 rap League podcast. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your family, tell your haters. Available on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Good Pods, Podchaser, and Stitcher. At Rec League Podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. At Rec League Pod on Twitter. Episode 65, available now. Yo, whether you watching this from Facebook, Twitter, click the link in my Instagram, or YouTube itself. What up, world? So I just watched Don't Breathe 2. It is the sequel to 2016, Don't Breathe. This one stars Stephen Lang, Brendan Sexton III, Madeline Grace, Rocky Williams, Stephanie Arcila, Adam Young, and it is directed by Rodo Segoyes. I don't think I said that right at all, but he helped write, co-wrote the original. The blind man is with a little girl, and he's training her, survival, this, that, and that. And then a group of armed men break into the house, and we expect for everyone to hold their breath. I love the original Don't Breathe. The tag so you can see my review will be in this area. I was excited to see a Don't Breathe 2. That is until I heard that it was going to be an original story, because the original movie leaves the story open for a sequel, so I wanted to see that sequel. And then I read that Jane Levy didn't want to come back. Maybe production of the first movie was too stressful, and for whatever she had her reasons, she didn't want to come back. I was like, all right, cool. So the sequel is an original movie. That's lame, but I'll watch it. And then I read Sam Raimi say that this is one of the best either horror scripts he's ever read or horror sequel scripts he's ever read. And I'm like, okay, that gives me a little bit of hope. I am never taking Sam Raimi's word for shit again. This movie was weak. It's it started off cool. The old blind man, the little girl, he's tough on her. He's really strict. There's a girl that comes and with stuff, helps him, and she helps her. And then once these guys break into the crib, you think, okay, tension. The first movie was tension start to finish. As soon as the break-in happens, it's tension start to finish. This movie was weak. Don't Breathe 2 has no tension. There are a good 4 or 5 jump scares. None of them are effective. The villains, every character in this movie is a shitty person. There are no good characters. There are no good human beings in this movie. Maybe the little girl. She's an innocent little girl. She's a victim of the situation. But every adult in this movie is a piece of shit. The people that break into the house all look like henchmen from 80s and 90s action movies. I want to say their acting is serviceable. It's not bad, but I didn't really like any of these character portrayals either. Everybody's breathing in this movie. They're the first movie was okay, if we breathe, he's going to hear us. He's going to get us. If we breathe, we're fucked. In this movie, everybody's just huffing and puffing along, just breath after breath after inhale and exhale. And there is nothing about this movie that is Don't Breathe. There's dialogue toward the third act where a character literally says another character needs to be breathing in order for something to happen. And it's these people are breaking into the crib. Once we find out why they broke into the crib, I was okay, what led to this moment, they're shitty people, but maybe they're justified. And then once the real reason is revealed, it's bro, these are some of the worst scummy fucking characters I've seen in a movie in quite some time. Like these, and it's just like it's supposed to be like a big oh shit moment. And by the time I had checked out, like I did not care. By the time the cool stuff happens at the end, it's just like, okay, that's cool, but I don't care. Like I do not need the way it ended. I don't see how there could be a Don't Breathe 3, but I do not like Fede Alvarez. Like I want to know what Fede Alvarez was doing, why he couldn't be more like in on this movie, because this movie, Don't Breathe 2 makes Don't Breathe look like the original Halloween. Whatever you feel like the greatest horror movie of all time is. Like, I really enjoy the original Don't Breathe, but I don't know if it's an all-time horror classic. This movie is like Jason Goes to Hell in comparison. Freddy's Dead in comparison. This is a bad sequel. There's one throwaway line of dialogue and there's no mention of anything that happened in the original movie. There's one line of dialogue that briefly references, like, okay, I did not enjoy this movie at all. With all that being said, man, I will say that in my opinion, Don't Breathe 2 is straight. Don't Breathe 2 gets a 2-star out of 5-star possibility. I didn't hate it, like the 1 and 1.5. Those are reserved for stuff that I actually loathed sitting through. I didn't hate this movie. It was really fucking bad. Have you seen Don't Breathe 2? What did you think about it, man? Positive, negative, somewhere in between? Let me know. If you guys have been watching me long enough, you know that I don't go and watch everything. I don't literally watch every single new release. I watch what I'm interested in. And a lot of the times, more times than not, I enjoy what it is. It could be a Black Widow, a Suicide Squad, a Nobody, if we're lucky, a Mitchells versus the Machines, or it could be a Don't Breathe 2. I've recently posted reviews for Respect, Free Guy, Batman The Long Halloween Part 2, and The Suicide Squad. Next weekend, I want to watch Reminiscence and The Protege, and the week after that, August will be in its last weekend, and I'll be watching Candyman. We talking musical biopics on the next podcast, on the recent podcast that you can get on YouTube, on Anchor, Spotify, everywhere that I say at the beginning of every review. We talk sitcoms. Check all of that out, man. Like, subscribe, comment. Find me where you find me, man. Don't know where to find me. Watch these credits. Peace.